Hello there, my name is Michelle King. I'm a principal planner for the City of Sunnyvale and project manager for the Moffett Park Specific Plan. The City of Sunnyvale is in the process of updating the specific plan for Moffett Park, which will help guide how our city government makes decisions over the next 20 years in this area. Please see this slide. This is the specific plan area that is under review. I'm pleased to introduce a new video series where our team of expert consultants will share key findings from their research on the existing conditions in the Moffett Park area. Each video is accompanied by a mini survey for you to share your thoughts about the content presented in the videos. It's very important for us to hear from you to update the specific plan, as it should be driven by community values. Community engagement related to the specific plan will continue, but for the time being, we'll be transitioning to an online format through methods such as online informational videos and surveys to gather input. For more information about the specific plan and opportunities to get involved, visit moffittparksp.com. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Derek Braun, and I'm a Senior Associate with Strategic Economics. Strategic Economics has performed an analysis of market conditions in the Moffett Park specific plan area. In this video, I'll be sharing some important findings for thinking about future opportunities and challenges in the plan area. I also hope that after you've watched this video, you'll take a moment to complete the accompanying mini survey. It's a great opportunity to share your priorities for the specific plan. Well, this presentation touches on a few topic areas. First, I'll discuss how to think about the role of market conditions when developing a specific plan and the potential impacts of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Then, I'll share the results of our analyses of existing market conditions and opportunities. So let's start with how the market does and does not matter when developing a specific plan. In economic and market analysis, essentially examines the competitive positioning of a place to attract development and investment. The analysis basically explains the drivers of growth and investment, when and where that growth and investment might occur, and ultimately why different types of growth can or cannot be attracted to a place. So an understanding of market opportunities ensures that a plan can realistically be implemented, since a great deal of change depends on the actions of private property owners and developers. But I want to point out that market opportunity should not be the only consideration when developing the Moffett Park specific plan. A specific plan is a chance to shape growth through community investments and policies. So the plan should also reflect community priorities, and the plan creates an opportunity to respond to and to shape the physical environment of Moffett Park. Of course, it's important to consider how COVID-19 is impacting market conditions in Moffett Park and opportunities in the area. I want to start with an honest walkthrough of what we do and we don't know right now. We know the short-term economic impacts are severe. We know that these impacts are playing out differently for different industries, such as retail and restaurant businesses that were temporarily shut down versus office-based industries in which work is continuing, but happening remotely or happening differently. But fortunately, we also know that Moffett Park's basic competitive assets won't change. We have to think in terms of a 20-year plan and what conditions are fixed in place. So we know that Moffett Park's location won't change. The freeways aren't going anywhere, and Silicon Valley is likely to remain the technology capital of the world. That being said, we also know, of course, that the plan must now incorporate consideration of economic recovery over the next few years. What we don't know at this moment includes detailed, location-specific, and timely data. As a result, much of the data that I'm about to present predates the pandemic, and many analyses were completed prior to the pandemic. We also don't know the depth and length of the pandemic's economic and market impacts. And we don't know how the pandemic will result in long-term changes in how we work, where we work, and how we travel. So I'd like to move on to discussing Moffett Park's current mix of businesses and the area's competitive assets. Moffett Park is a major Silicon Valley employment district with approximately 34,000 jobs. As you can see in the chart to the right, nearly 30,000 of these 34,000 jobs are in the information and professional, scientific, and technical services sectors. These are the sectors in which you find major technology companies and companies engaged in research and development activities of all kinds. And as I said, 30,000 out of 34,000 jobs in Moffett Park are in those industries. Altogether, about 2/3 of jobs in Moffett Park are at Google, Lockheed Martin, Juniper Networks, and Amazon. But the area also includes many smaller businesses. As of 2019, 60% of Moffett Park's businesses had fewer than 20 employees. Moffett Park today has no housing and very few retail and personal services businesses. And the area has long benefited from excellent transportation connections. These include highway access via Highways 237, 101, and the Lawrence Expressway. Plus, the area includes 2 VTA light rail stations. So based on the competitive assets I just described, Moffett Park is well positioned to compete for future growth and investment. However, I also want to note that Moffett Park will be competing with a number of nearby areas also planned for growth, which are shown on this map. If you'd like to take a closer look, please pause the presentation and then continue. Our housing demand analysis found that Moffett Park is a highly desirable location due to its excellent access to the large concentration of Silicon Valley jobs. Moffett Park could potentially capture demand for at least 21,000 additional housing units through 2040. We also found that demand is strong for both rental apartments and for condominiums. We also examined the need for affordable housing in Sunnyvale. So affordable housing refers to income-restricted housing that is affordable to households earning lower incomes. This housing typically requires a private or public subsidy in order to be built. The chart on the right shows the City of Sunnyvale's progress in meeting its legally mandated housing production goals through 2023. As shown, since 2015, housing permits issued for market rate housing in Sunnyvale have exceeded the goal, producing nearly 2,000 units. However, only a fraction of units affordable to lower income levels have been produced. So, any housing growth in Moffett Park creates an opportunity to make progress in resolving this backlog of need for more affordable housing options in Sunnyvale. Plus, ultimately, any introduction of housing in Moffett Park will of course also require schools, parks, and other public amenities to serve these new residents. Office demand in Moffett Park is largely driven by the technology industry. As shown in the chart on the bottom right, office rents in Sunnyvale and surrounding cities have significantly increased since the Great Recession, which has spurred a large amount of development activity in Moffett Park and in surrounding areas. Based on employment projections and long-term development trends, Sunnyvale and surrounding cities are poised to attract additional demand for at least 11 million, but up to 31 million square feet of additional office space through 2040. Now, Moffett Park is in a competitive location to attract a large share of this growth. But ultimately, attracting office growth will depend on the decisions of major property owners in Moffett Park, and growth will need to be supported by additional transportation and other infrastructure investments. The big story of industrial flex and R&D, research and development space in Moffett Park, is that demand is strong for these uses, but without intervention, this space is likely to decline as these industrial buildings are replaced by higher value office uses. You can see in the top right chart that the total inventory of industrial and flex or R&D space in Sunnyvale has been declining for some time. This has occurred even as rents increased for these spaces, as shown in the bottom right chart. Why? Well, the bottom chart also shows the high rent premium that office users are willing and able to pay compared to users of industrial space. So this raises the question of whether the specific plan should include policies that encourage retention or replacement of industrial and flex or R&D space. The industrial and flex or R&D spaces in Moffett Park accommodate diverse uses such as research, advanced manufacturing, and distribution, and all the companies are still tied in some way to the core Silicon Valley technology and innovation-focused industries. That's why these companies are in Moffett Park. So ultimately, the loss of industrial flex or R&D space is likely to have a negative impact on the overall economic diversity of businesses in Moffett Park. Demand for retail space in Moffett Park will primarily be driven by the growth of new housing in the area. Therefore, demand will exist for, if housing is built, demand will exist for neighborhood retail such as groceries, dry cleaners, salons, restaurants, and drugstores. The map on the right, which shows nearby major shopping centers, demonstrates that Moffett Park is already well served by existing and planned larger shopping centers. As a result, the area is not particularly well positioned to attract a concentration of larger regional serving retail, such as a big lifestyle center or a major new downtown destination. The big challenge for retail in Moffett Park will come down to the timing and siting of new spaces. There won't be sufficient demand to attract retail until a fairly large amount of residential growth occurs. Until that happens, early retail demand will favor sites near the freeway in traditional shopping center, strip mall types of formats. So any decisions about retail in the specific plan will therefore need to consider how to address this timing and location challenge. Finally, let's talk about hotels. Hotel demand in Moffett Park is primarily driven by proximity and access to large employers. Demand for hotel rooms was very strong prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and significant development activity was occurring, as shown by the number of rooms in the blue development pipeline portions of the chart to the right. At this time, however, the hotel industry has been hard hit by the decline in travel due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it will take quite a while for business travel to pick back up and for hotel development activity to resume. That being said, long-term, Moffett Park will remain a competitive location to attract additional hotels due to the area's location within Silicon Valley and its concentration of large employers. Okay, we've come full circle. Recall that I opened the presentation by describing how to think about market conditions in the context of a specific plan. Well, if we just think about what we've learned about market demand, there's strong demand for office space, strong demand for market rate housing, and a need to consider the short-term and long-term impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I've also touched on some issues that can only be resolved through decisions about community priorities. These include whether and how to maintain economic diversity in Moffett Park, whether and how to meet affordable housing needs, and when you put together all the different land uses I talked about, how could they maybe be combined to create a complete community that integrates jobs with housing and retail? Finally, there are physical context issues to think about. These include the need to address sea level rise in Moffett Park, how to go about creating a community that provides a variety of workable transportation options, and the need to add public parks and other amenities to support any growth or change in Moffett Park. Well, thank you so very much for taking the time to watch this video. I encourage you to continue your engagement throughout the process of developing the Moffett Park specific plan. And for the time being, I hope you'll fill out the mini survey that accompanies this video.